So we are coming closer and closer to Hanukkah, and for that reason, everyone of Jewish descent, everyone who is a Zionist, whether they are a Jew or not, need to be on the alert of the coming destruction of Western civilization. Hanukkah has everything to do with the overthrowing of the people who persecuted, who murdered, who showed, who stole the land, who stole the property of the temple from Israel and from ultimately Jehovah, the Elohim of Israel. Now, let's get started. Hanukkah, the 8-day Jewish celebration known as Hanukkah or Hanukkah, commemorates their rededication during the 2nd century BCE of the Second Temple in Jerusalem, where according to legend, no, it's not just legend, it is historical fact. The Jews had risen up against their Greek/Syrian oppressors in the Maccabean revolt. In Daniel, the book of Daniel, pardon me, I think I sprained my ankle here, so you'll have to bear with me. In Daniel 11, and Gabriel, the messenger, was talking to Daniel, and he was telling him a series of events that were going to happen all the way to the time of the very, very end. And in the first year of Darius the Mede, I stood to confirm and strengthen him. Now this is Gabriel speaking. And now I will show you the truth. There shall be yet 3 kings in Persia, and the 4th shall be richer than they all. So some people might misinterpret this as to meaning only 3 kings. It might mean 3 notable kings, and then the 4th will be far richer than they all. And by his strength through his riches he shall stir up all the realm of Greece. And so Darius the Third, they were not just Darius 1, Darius 2, Darius 3, there were kings in between. But Darius the Third, he was the one who did this. And then a mighty king shall stand up, who will rule with great dominion and do according to his will. Alexander the Great overthrew Darius the Third. And when he shall stand up, and he did, his kingdom shall be broken, and shall divided toward the 4 winds of the sky, and not to his posterity, nor according to his dominion, which he ruled. For his kingdom shall be plucked up even for others besides these. And it was I have a list of, is it this one? No. What's going on here? I forgot to get rid of some things that are in my way. Let me see if I can do, there we go. Now, what we have, when he was asked who should succeed him, Alexander said, the strongest which answer led to his empire being divided between four of his generals, Cassander, Ptolemy, Antigonus, and Seleucus. And the areas were, like I said, Macedon, Seleucid, which was Syria, Ptolemy, which was Egypt, and the fourth was in Asia Minor. I don't even remember what the name of that was, but we'll continue. And the king of the south shall be strong. That would be Ptolemy, Egypt. And one of his princes shall be strong above him and have dominion, and he shall have great dominion, and the end of his years. And so we go through the whole process here, but I want to go way down to the bottom. The tyranny of the Western king. Why Western? Why they say Western beats me. I don't quite understand it. Okay? Because this right here was the king of Syria, Seleucid. That's north, not the Western king. Now, the kings of Hittite, and it is believed that that is Rome, or what later became Rome, shall come up against him. This is king of the south, king of the north. And he shall return and have intelligence at which them who forsook the Kodesh Berith. These that forsook the Holy Covenant, the Kodesh Berith, are Hellenized Jews. Okay? Shoulder length, take one stand, and they will pollute the sanctuary of strength, and take away the daily sacrifice, and they will set the abomination, the detestable thing, the shakuts, shalmain, to make desolate. And such as do wickedly against the covenant, the Hellenized Jews, shall be corrupt by flatteries. But the people who know their Elohim, not God, shall be strong and do exploits. All right? So, now's the time to read the history. The death of Alexander the Great, king of Greece, in 323 BCE, led to the breakup of the Greek Empire as three of his generals fought for supremacy and divided the Middle East among themselves. Ptolemy secured control of Egypt and the land of Israel. Seleucus grabbed Syria and Asia Minor, and Antigonus took Greece. The land of Israel was a sandwich between the two, north and the south, of the rivals, and for the next 125 years the Seleucids and the Ptolemies battled for this prize. Exactly the same way that the Muslims, I'll think of it in just a minute, the Byzantines and the Crusaders fought for Jerusalem, fought for control of Jerusalem. Seleucid, the former, finally won in 198 BCE when Antiochus III defeated the Egyptians and incorporated Judea into his empire. Initially, he continued to allow the Jews autonomy, but after a stinging defeat at the hands of the Romans, he began a program of Hellenization, forcing Jews to forsake the covenant. That threatened to force the Jews to abandon their monotheism for the Greeks' paganism. Antiochus backed down in the face of Jewish opposition to his efforts to introduce idols in their temples, but his son, Antiochus IV, who had inherited the throne in 176 BCE, resumed his father's original policy without accepting the Jews. A brief Jewish rebellion only hardened his view and led him to outlaw central tenets of Judaism such as Shabbat, circumcision, and he defiled the temple by erecting an altar of the idol Zeus, allowing the sacrifice of pigs and opening the shrine to non-Jews. Now, folks, please do not forget this. Opening the shrine to non-Jews. Because you see, there is a court for the Gentiles that is outside the temple. At least there was in the days of Jonah, before the temple was destroyed. Now, many Jews have been seduced by the virtues of Hellenism. And indeed, the same thing is happening right now. Jews being seduced by the virtues of Hellenism. The extreme measures adopted by Antiochus helped unite the people. When a Greek official tried to force a priest named Mattathias to make a sacrifice to a pagan idol, the Jew didn't murder the man, righteously killed him. Predictably, Antiochus began reprisals, but in 167 BCE, the Jews rose up behind Mattathias and his 5 sons and fought for their liberation. The family of Mattathias became known as the Maccabees, from the Hebrew word hammer, because they were said to strike hammer blows against their enemies. Jews referred to the Maccabees, but the family is more commonly known as the Hasmoneans, or Hasmoneans. Like other rulers before him, Antiochus underestimated the will and the strength of his Jewish adversaries and sent a small force to put down the rebellion. This is exactly what Caligula did. You see, there was another exact same attempt just like this by Caligula. When that was annihilated, he led a more powerful army into battle, only to be defeated. In 164 BCE, Jerusalem was recaptured by the Maccabees and the temple purified in an event that gave birth to the holiday Hanukkah. Now a new Hanukkah is coming. That is the reason why I'm focusing on Hanukkah. Because just like the previous one, where the Maccabees defeated Antiochus IV, the one who placed the abomination of desolation in the temple, the Romans did identically the same thing. And when the people of Caligula were beaten back and the idol of Deuspater was cast out, something happened to Caligula and he died, and then there was a great civil war in Rome. And the man who came out on top, then there was Nero, but the civil war started with the so-called suicide of Nero. The whole story of Nero is very mysterious. But after Nero, the civil war began, and Vespasian came out on top. And then he began, while the civil war was going on, he began the invasion of Judea and Jerusalem. Then he went back to take the title of Caesar and sent his son, exactly as written in Daniel 7. The prince of the people that shall come. It's Daniel 9. Daniel 9. And they destroyed Jerusalem, they destroyed the temple, and they put the abomination of desolation on the wing of the temple. But at that time, after what Titus did, the Jews did not regain their independence. But the former, after Antiochus, it took more than 2 decades of fighting before the Maccabees forced the Seleucids to retreat from the land of Israel. By this time, Antiochus had died, and his successor agreed to the Jews' demand for independence. In the year 142 BCE, after almost 500 years of subjugation, the Jews were again masters of their own fate. Now, as we know, there is a reason why the Jews celebrate Hanukkah today. It is over this particular event. But another Hanukkah is coming. And it won't be. It's not the one where after 500 years of subjugation. No, this one is after over 2,000 years of subjugation and dispersion. And it won't be just the Greeks that are thrown out. It will be every nation that has ever fought against Jerusalem, according to Zechariah 14. So we are on a Hanukkah destruction of Western civilization watch. Each and every one of you should be on this watch. You're watching carefully. Why? Because something that is written here in Haggai. He keeps telling them over and over and over again, set this day. Set this day. What day? And forward. Or it can mean above. It says above. So this day should be on top, yet it is not a holy day. But he set this day above, on top. Why? Because something very special is going to happen on that day. And it was partially fulfilled. The time when the Maccabees beat back the Greeks. But that was a forerunner of what is to come. Set this day on top. See? On top. Above. Exceedingly. Forward. Greater. Greatly. To the sky. High. This. Are there enough adjectives, pronouns, or whatever you want to call them, to describe how you are supposed to acknowledge this day and set that day? Is there any doubt now? That's the day. And that is the reason why I'm calling that day Hanukkah Watch, or the destruction of Western civilization watch. From the 24th day of the 9th month, the 24th day of the 9th month is the day before Hanukkah. From the day that the foundation of Jehovah's temple was laid. Set it. Mark that day. Set it above. That is the day you are looking for. The seed will be in the barn. The vine will be the fig tree. The pomegranate and the olive tree are going to bring forth on this day. Don't sit here and look at King James Version. They don't know what they're talking about. It is on that day the blessing is going to come. From that day will I bless you. Again, the word of Jehovah, not the Lord. See right there? Jehovah. Came to Haggai in the 24th day of the month. What month was that? Well, obviously it was the 9th month. Saying, speak to Zerubbabel, governor of Yehuda, and say, I will quake the heavens and the earth, and I will overthrow the throne of the kingdoms, and I will destroy the strength of the kingdoms of the what? The Goy, the Gentiles, and I will overthrow their chariots and those that ride in them, and the Sus, flying birds. Don't believe it? Take a look. And it also can be a horse, or chariot horses. But the number one, the definition is actually bird. And in context, it is warbirds. And their riders shall come down, every one by the sword of his brother. So we're talking world war. And when you read Zechariah 14, it says neighbor versus neighbor. In that day, says Jehovah of hosts, I will take you, Zerubbabel, my servant, the son of Shealtiel, says Jehovah, and I will set a sign. I have chosen, says Jehovah. So that day, now in King James Version it says, I will make you a sign. Well, apparently that day is the sign. And I've been reading it wrong, just like everybody else, but every day I try to read it correctly. So the day, the 24th day of the 9th month, that is the day that the sign is going to be revealed. And what is that sign? civil war. Great, not only civil war within countries, but world war outside of countries. So I want to, at this time, go to, what is it? War News. Where is the... Oh, it's right here, right in front of me. So to settle accounts, or to settle the score, officials request for the return of the Serbian army to Kosovo. Roadblocks and civil defense sirens in Mitrovica. So while this war between two brothers, Ukraine and Russia, is going on, now we have the Serbians versus the Albanians in Kosovo. Kosovo Prime Minister, we will respond with armed force. For the first time since 1999, Serbia has officially submitted a request for the full implementation of Resolution 1244, which, among other things, provide for the return to Kosovo of 1,000 members of the Serbian security forces. The situation in the area smells like gunpowder. Albanians have arrested a Serbian ex-policeman who attacked Kosovar policemen. Bomb attacks have occurred against Kosovar journalists, while gunfire was recorded for 15 minutes near the town of Zubin Potok. The president of Serbia, Alexander Vučić, in a press conference sermon he gave yesterday, on December 10, informed the Serbian people about this development. He specifically said the government of Serbia will submit a formal request to the commander of the International Peacekeeping Force, KFOR, to allow for the deployment of the Serbian army and police in Kosovo. Serbia submits the request for the deployment of the army and police in Kosovo in accordance with Resolution 1244 of the SA of the United Nations 1999, and added that this resolution obliges for KFOR administration to facilitate the return of the Serbian security forces. And of course, Vučić says he has no illusions and knew the request would be rejected, while he said their appeal to legitimacy would guide Serbia's future moves on the Kosovo issue. As you can plainly see, the Kosovo situation is going to erupt in civil war again. If you would have been bothered to watch Turkey and Greece, they're about to go to war. The United States has turned their backs on the Kurds so that Turkey can go in there and massacre them. And that only scratches the surface. Now, we have this going on. Russia, Putin, what is it? I'm going to go to a website that I absolutely detest, despise, but it's the easiest way for me to get to this particular, what do you call that, news. Russia considering adding preventative nuclear strike to military doctrine. Now, this is a, alright, so what I'm going to do is type this. Add nuclear first strike. I saw an article where it says, if just one. If just one missile flies into Russia, 100 are going to come back and destroy his enemies. See if I can type it that way. Enters Russia 100. Let's see if... There we go. There we go. Fox News. Putin says one missile will trigger hundreds of warheads and stark message on nuclear deterrence. Russia expert counters Putin's suggestion that he will change Moscow's nuclear doctrine. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Friday once again drew international attention when he warned that if even one missile, what kind of missile, enters Russian territory, hundreds of warheads will respond. I assure you that after the early warning system receives a signal of a missile attack, hundreds of our missiles are in the air. Putin said from a summit in Kyrgyzstan. Russian news outlet RIA reported it is impossible to stop them. There will be nothing left of the enemy because it is impossible to intercept 100 missiles. This, of course, is a deterrent, a serious deterrent. And this all the while, you have Europe and Ukraine talking about having tribunals to try Putin and the people in the Kremlin for war crimes. So everyone is escalating. All the Gentiles, they're escalating. They're not pulling back. So, as you can see, it is extremely important to pay attention to the date that was set in the book of Haggai, that the Great War is going to come between the Gentiles. And after this war, right afterwards, it's going to be this. Right after this initial destruction, are all the cities going to be destroyed? No. But it is going to be enough to where the shift, that is the marker, that is the portent, as Joel says in chapter 2, it is the same portent, the sign that Jehovah talks about in Haggai 2. There was given unto me a reed, like I might just have to go to Isaiah 66 first. Let me do that, because in case there are any Jews in the audience, it is important to remember where that came from, where that passage in Revelation 11 came from. Jehovah will come with fire and with his chariot, like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury and his rebuke with the flames of fire. For by fire and by the sword will Jehovah, not the Lord, and not plead. He will judge flesh, and the slain, the killed of Jehovah shall be many. And this right here is speaking of the sons of Greece. Those who eat swine's flesh, and that is referring to those who put swine's flesh on the altar in the temple. The people of the west, and the second desecrator of the temple, that would be Rome, and the far west. That abomination. This is actually referring to the abomination of desolation. And the mouse eaters will be consumed together. I know their works, and it shall come, that I will gather the Gentiles and the tongues, and they shall come and see my glory. Now, that can be in reference to Ezekiel 38 and 39, or it can be in reference after the aftermath. But watch this. I will set a portent among them. Alright, so we have Yoel 2. We'll go there. We'll go to Yoel 2. Where are you? There you are. Talking about signs and portents. And what I'm doing here is I'm showing you that it's the same sign. Okay? I will show a sign, mofaith, a wonder, a sign, a portent in the sky. Blood in the sky, blood in the earth, fire and timara of smoke. That's nuclear weapons. I have shown you that. So this is the sign. Let's look at nuke explosion. All right. See if I can get a better picture. Blood in the sky, red. Blood in the earth, palm-like columns of smoke. See? See? See that? There's more. Now, that's the sign. And the sun shall be turned into darkness, and the moon into blood, before the great and terrible day of Jehovah's wrath come. And those who proclaim the name, those who proclaim Shem Jehovah, shall be delivered to Mount Zion in Jerusalem, because that's where deliverance shall be, exactly as Jehovah has said. And it will be the final remnant, and he will call them back. Now, how is this going to be done? If we to do this, once again, gather his elect. I'm not leaving Isaiah 66 yet. On the flip side, not immediately, on the flip side, after Israel's tribulation is over, shall be the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from the sky, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken, and there shall appear the Son of Man in the sky, and all the tribes of the earth will be cut off, will be struck, cut off. How? Brother against brother. See, what if? I'll give you what if, right? We just read how Putin said one missile, just one, and 100 are going to fly back toward the enemy. What if one giant meteor hit St. Petersburg, Moscow, with tensions as tight as a guitar string? And they keep tightening it and tightening it and tightening it, and then it's right about the time it's about to snap, a different force snaps it. The tension is so high that the Russians are going to immediately assume it was their enemy and fire 100 or maybe 1,000 nuclear missiles. Look, if you read Zechariah 14, he said a tumult is going to happen because of Jehovah. He's going to do it. So I ask you, please be on alert, especially the day before and the day of Hanukkah. All you Jews and all you Zionists who are Jews and non-Jews. They're going to see the sign of the Son of Man coming from in the sky, and he shall send messengers with the great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather his elect. Isaiah, well, you can look in Romans 11, verse 26, 27, 28, and you will see that people of Israel are the elect for the patriarchs' sakes, for the Abba's sakes, for Abraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov's sakes. From the four winds of the sky, from one end of the sky to the other. Now, who is going to do this, and who are the elect? Let's go back then to Isaiah 66. You'll see that a great tribulation is going to come upon the Gentiles, and if you bother to read Daniel 12 and verse 1, and have your blue letter Strong's Concordance in front of you, you will plainly see that the great tribulation upon the Gentiles. I will set a sign. An oath means the same thing. A sign, an omen, a standard, and witnesses. Watch this. To send escapees back to the Gentiles, to Tarshish first. Exactly as written in Isaiah 60, verse 7, 8, and 9. The ships of Tarshish first. And what are these witnesses, two witnesses, going to do? Remember, set a sign. Banners, omens, pledge, sign, standards, witness. A witness is a person. They're going to be two. Right here. And there was given unto me a reed like a rod, and the messenger stood and said, Rise and measure the temple of Elohim, and the altar that worship therein, but the court which is outside the temple, leave out, cut it off, cast it out, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles. And the holy city they will tread underfoot 42 months, and they did. The destruction of Jerusalem by Titus, the son of Vespasian, the Roman emperor. And in retaliation, I will give power to my two witnesses, the sign makers. Witnesses, the sign makers. And They will be sent unto the Gentiles, to Tarshish, to Pul and Lud, to Tubal and Greece, and to the coastlands. Rome, the Roman Empire. To hear my fame, to see my glory, not neither have seen, no, to see my glory. And the two witnesses shall declare my glory unto the Gentiles. How are they going to do this? They're going to do this in this way. These are, okay, and I will give unto my two witnesses power. Or I will give my two witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days, clothed in sackcloth. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks, lampstands, standing before the Elohim of the earth. And every time I read that, I think of Eliah the prophet. Why? Because he said, the Adonai of the earth before whom I stand. And he brought 3.5 years of no rain upon Israel, to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and children to the fathers. Eliah the prophet is coming. Not the same Eliah, for the first one has done his work, and his reward is already set. Another one is coming. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceeds out of their mouth, and devours their enemies. That is the power of Eliah. Just like Eliah did with the two generals and their 50 soldiers who came to get him. And if any man will hurt them, he must be in this manner be killed. They have the power to shut the sky, so that it rain not in the days of their prophecy. How long is the days of their prophecy? 1,260 days. That is 3.5 years. That's exactly what Eliah the prophet did. But there's more. There's more. And they have powers over the water to turn them into blood, the power of Moshe. So they will have the power of Moshe and the power of Eliah the prophet, to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. So Eliah the prophet and his prophecy about the 3.5 years of no rain was a forerunner of what is to come in the future. The whole point of the matter is to turn the hearts of the fathers to the children and the children to the fathers, and that would be turn the hearts of the people of Israel back to the land of their fathers. Because you see, there's not going to be any rain here in these lands. Not only that, the Gentiles will be forced to bring them here, bring them to Israel. And they will declare my glory unto the Gentiles, and they shall bring your brethren for an offering unto Jehovah out of all the Gentiles upon horses, upon soos. That would be things that fly. Isaiah 60, verse 8. What do I see flying in the clouds? Like birds to their windows. They are the sons and daughters of the people of Israel, flying, and first from the ships of Tarshish. First the ships of Tarshish. Now, folks, the vast majority of the Jews, which means the vast majority of Israel, are located where? In the North American hemisphere. They will be coming from there first, who are the most nuclear missiles pointed at in the world today. The North American Hemisphere. They will bring all your brethren for an offering unto Jehovah out of all the Gentiles upon flying birds, and in chariots, covered wagons, cars, buses, trains, anything that can move, even upon mules out of Syria, and upon dromedaries out of Syria, out of Iraq, and other places, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, says Jehovah. The children of Israel will be as an offering in a clean vessel unto the house of Jehovah. And they, the children of Israel, will become priests like Levites, says Jehovah. And for a new heaven and a new earth will I make, and shall remain before me, says Jehovah, so that your seed and your name shall remain. So it will once again be the land of Israel forever. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to the next new moon, and from one Shabbat to another, that all flesh, that's the Gentiles too, will come to worship before me, says Jehovah. And they will go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, because their worm shall die. I don't care what King James Version it says. Their worm shall die, and their fire shall be quenched, and they will be an abhorrence unto all flesh. That means you, Vladimir Putin. That means the people in Washington, D.C. That means the Kremlin. That means the parliaments of Great Britain, Ukraine, around the world will be dealt with this way. And because the Gentiles killed the two witnesses, there will be 7 last plagues upon the Gentiles from Jehovah. And anyway, I think I'll stop right here. Once again, this is the Hanukkah destruction of Western civilization watch, or the watch over the destruction of Western civilization. Am I saying that it's going to happen this Hanukkah? No, I am not, because I don't know when. What I do know is Hanukkah is the day to watch for the destruction of Western civilization. Why? Because of the mouth of Jehovah said so.